How's it? Welcome back. So quick question. When you're lying in bed going to sleep most nights, how often are you consciously aware of how close you are to actually falling asleep? And so for me, the answer is basically always, and I kind of thought everybody would be a bit more like that. However, I was having a conversation with someone in the community here recently, and she was telling me that she very rarely is, which caught me by surprise. But basically, long story short, I was saying how starting to pay attention to the falling asleep process could be a good place for her to start with their lucid dreaming practice. Because if you can learn to get into stage 1 of sleep hypnagogia, consciously or lucidly aware, and you can learn to maintain and stay in and play around in that space, you're using a lot of these same mental muscles and techniques that you would be using within a regular REM style lucid dream. So, it can be beneficial. Also, though, there are just some cool experiences to be had as well. Like, for example, you can start to notice when your external senses start to retreat. So say like maybe your arms and legs will start to feel a little bit different, or outside noises will start to dissipate, or maybe you hear a noise but it's not coming from externally, it's coming from internally within your own head. And so for me, the first thing I'll tend to notice if I am paying attention to more of the physical external senses is my arms or legs will start to feel different. They'll get like this light buzzing sensation, or kind of feel like they're floating a bit, or my body position will tend to be different than what it actually really is. So I'll feel like I'm rolled over on my side or face down, even though I'm lying on my back, or I'll feel like I'm sitting up or standing, right? And then the other cool thing is, if you can notice some of these things start to happen, that means you're like right there. You're in hypnagogia, or the hypnagogic images should either be happening or they'll be coming on very shortly. And then once that does happen, you can just switch over into a regular straight up hypnagogic meditation. Some things I like to do to kind of jumpstart this process is, of course, I'll be trying to pay attention to what's happening behind my closed eyes, waiting for this imagery starting to start showing itself. And so there's a couple different ways I like to go about it. One is you just do regular straight up open awareness meditation, right? You let these thoughts pop up and drift on by. And then eventually, as you get deeper into stage 1 of sleep, instead of just having this thought just kind of pop up in your head, it'll start to get like visible, behind your closed eyes as this hypnagogic imagery starts to come up. Or you can kind of start to feed it and seed ideas and kind of try to take this imagery or take this liminal dream in a specific direction. What can be beneficial here, though, is to know what type of imagery you can easily conjure up and like what's hard for you. So like for me, trying to get like faces and like detailed faces is hard for me to picture, but I'm very good at picturing like just basically like scenery. So I'll see the idea of like, some kind of mountain type scene, and then I'll be watching behind my closed eyes and I'll see like a vague image of, a mountain scenery and like trees and rivers and shit, right? Or you can also try to bring up imagery of some place that you know very well. So like an easy one for me would be like my childhood home, where like I grew up on a horse ranch. So I'll start seeding that idea and wait for that imagery to pop up. And actually I was just doing that last night. And one of the cool things you can notice when you do play around in this hypnagogic space is how it's, you can notice the similarities and also the differences between like a regular REM style lucid dream. So I was seeing the idea of my childhood home, and I grew up on a horse ranch. So I'm seeing this view from like looking up our driveway, was like up this hill. And then as I'm seeing that, it's kind of panning to the left. And then to the left of the driveway, we have these horse arenas that are like square, right? And so as that starts to come into view, my mind just basically free associates that to something else. And the whole scene morphs into like a basketball gymnasium visual with like bleachers and stuff going up in the background. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat to watch that change. And then that made me think of my school. So then I started seeing like my old high school kind of pop into the picture. And it was basically just morphing and changing a lot, as opposed to when you're within a regular REM style dream. Of course, things can kind of just change and free associate to different stuff, but it tends to be a lot more solid. And hypnagogic imagery will do that exact same thing here too. But a lot of times when you're really early into it, especially if you're going with more of this open awareness approach, is because the narrative isn't built in that strong yet. They can really easily just start morphing and changing into different environments and different scenes. But then once that narrative starts to get going about a lot stronger, then it will tend to stabilize and stay more consistent and be like a regular dream would, where it's not constantly changing 1 second to the next. But anyway, yeah, just a quick thing there, and that's it. Until the next video, keep your hypnagogic practices legit.